Hi, everybody. Today I'm going to be talking about some reflections for 2024, what worked, what didn't regarding my reading life and my channel. And I'm also going to be talking about some goals for 2025. And I know I'm late for this type of video, but I didn't want to continue forward any further into 2025 without giving some reflections because I am a reflection kind of gal, as you can see here. And I will go ahead and start with my reading life. So for 2024, I did start out my year with a TBR for the series that I wanted to read and a TBR for the standalones I wanted to read. And as far as standalones are concerned, I am proud to say that I read every standalone that was on my list for 2024, with the exception of one book. And that one book is The City and the City by China Miéville. And the reason why is because I decided to trade that book out with Perdido Street Station. And I did that because I was gifted Perdido Street Station for my birthday, so it worked out that way. But I'm proud of the fact that I read so many standalones I set out to read. I was going to be okay if I didn't get to every single one on my list, but as it happens, I did pretty well. And I also read a whole bunch of other standalones that weren't on my list. So I'll probably show most of these on the screen, but most of the standalones that I got to in 2024 that were on my TBR included things like The Paper Menagerie and Rebecca by Du Maurier, The Bone Clocks by David Mitchell, Ubik by Philip K. Dick, Solaris by Stanislaw Lem, and several other books. And then I ended up picking up a bunch of other standalones that weren't on that list, including Ice by Anna Kavan and Ishiguro. I picked up both Never Let Me Go and Clara and the Sun. Those were buddy reads. The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. Small Things Like These by Claire Keegan. So as you can see, I read a lot of variety with genre, and that's the reason I like to have a good TBR when it comes to standalones, because I find it helps me add a lot of variety to my reading life. It lets me explore different genres. It keeps me engaged in exploring different types of literature, so I'm not in a rut with fantasy, because I'm somebody who enjoys science fiction and fantasy so much. Well, specifically fantasy, I should say. That's been the emphasis of my channel. I usually have at least one or two ongoing fantasy series, so it's nice to mix it up and have some other genres represented in my reading life. And I feel like this adds engagement, it gives me a good variety, it makes it so that I am always exploring something different in literature. And I have found this has been just such a key to success of not getting bogged down, not getting burnt out. I love reading standalones for that reason. And then as far as my series TBR for 2024, I did not make as much progress on that TBR as intended. I did finish the Edan trilogy, which was written by my good friend Philip Chase, and I had a discussion here on my channel celebrating him and that trilogy and the completion of that trilogy. I also finished the Sarentine Mosaic by Guy Gavriel Kay, which is just a duology, and I also hosted a discussion about that duology here on my channel. And I also started and finished Aspect Emperor by R. Scott Baker, and I had wonderful discussions with Philip Chase. Those discussions are both here on my channel and on his channel. And so it wasn't a huge year for finishing series, but I am still reading the Wars of Light and Shadow series alongside Philip Chase and A Critical Dragon. So that is taking a good chunk of reading time. And so I'm okay with not having made as much progress on some other series for now. I should also add that I don't like to have a ton of ongoing series at the same time. So I feel like it's good that I'm not adding too many more to my TBR. But I did read Hyperion this last year, and I have yet to read on to the second book. And I also read the Perdido Street Station Baslag book, as I mentioned before. So that's my progress with series right now, and I do hope to put more attention to that in 2025. So while that's where I stand when it comes to standalones and series, I have to say that my reading life quality went up in 2024. I can't tell for sure if I had a better reading year last year than I did in previous years, but what I can say is that the quality seemed to increase because of one thing specifically, my reading journal practice. I keep a daily reading journal. I've started this practice since October 2023, and I've kept it up daily since then, with the exception of travel. I don't usually journal when I'm traveling, But otherwise, I feel like this has been such a game changer in my reading life. And if you're curious, because I do have a very specific technique that I use, I will link the video where I explain this technique. Please check it out if you're interested in keeping a daily reading journal, because I find that this practice has helped me so much process my thoughts and feelings as I'm reading books. And it helps me to be able to talk about books more in depth when I am in discussions or when I'm talking about books here on my channel. So that has really helped my reading engagement, my joy of reading. It helps me feel like I'm getting something out of my book every single day. Additionally, I'll say that my reading quality improved because I started writing reviews as well. These are reviews that I don't publish. My reading journal and my review journal are just for me. They're not things that I share for others. Of course, they do help when it comes to talking about books on camera, but this review journal has some written reviews in pen, not edited, not proofread, but they're a way for me to look back and reference some general thoughts that I had about the books that I read. And this journal also has some other things as well. It's not just written reviews, but it was mostly written reviews. And the last page of the journal is the last review that I wrote for 2024, which was Will and Testament. So I feel like these practices have really enhanced, again, my journey reading books, my joy when it comes to the hobby of reading and engaging with books and story. So that has been a wonderful, wonderful part of my journey in 2024. Now on to channel stuff. And so I'll first say that one of the highlights I have here on my channel is my live discussion series, the Why Read series, which always starts with the Why Read question. And I had some fantastic guests on that series in 2024. And I'll also add that I had the pleasure of being a guest on other people's live show series. So I was on Brian from BellTube's For Whom the Bell Tolls for the first time. I was also on Read by Kyle's Corner for the first time. And I got to be a guest on one of my BookTube besties, Jimmy from the Fantasy Network, the OG when it comes to live shows. I was on Chatting with Nuts for the third time, and that was such a fantastic time. I enjoy any time I get to be on somebody else's channel. I love having people on my channel, but it's also fun to join others on other people's channels. And there were several other collaborations as well that I was part of that I'm probably forgetting here, and I apologize if I do. I'll list them in the description below. But I guess I'll go ahead and say that a theme for this last year was gendered reading. That seemed to take over my channel a little bit because I did put out a video about gendered target audiences. And then I followed up a month or two later with a discussion with Bookboard and Jimmy about the topic. So I enjoyed getting to talk more in depth about that topic with those two. And I also put out a top 15 female fantasy characters video. So there was a lot regarding that theme, I think, in 2024. And another theme that's worth mentioning is that I had the pleasure of killing epic fantasy with my friend Tori. That's right, Tori and I teamed up and we killed epic fantasy together. So you could watch that discussion on her channel if you're curious. This is a topic that I've always been interested in. What defines epic fantasy? What does it mean in our lives, especially right now? And it also goes back to a video that I did a couple of years ago on the Long Price Quartet, a spoiler-free review where I explore epic fantasy versus high fantasy. And speaking of Tori, I was also on Johan's channel with her for some unpopular opinions. Now to talk about some areas in my channel where I didn't do so well in 2024. I did have the goal of doing a vlog last year and I failed at that goal. One of the reasons I failed at that goal is because I had the intention of doing a reading vlog on a book that I never got around to reading in 2024. But another reason is because I started to reconsider whether this was a worthwhile goal for my channel. I know that there are several channels out there who do amazing jobs when it comes to vlogs and get a lot of attention for that, rightfully so. But I did do a couple of vlogs in past years, and I got the idea that maybe that's not what my audience was interested in. So I just don't know. I don't know if I'll do that goal moving forward, but I didn't get around to it in 2024. The other goal I failed at in 2024 is doing a top 10 series video. I am way overdue to do this type of video. I've never done one. And so that is going to be a major goal in 2025. It might not be the most in-depth video about the series I'm in love with, but I do want to do a video where I give some overview of where my taste is right now when it comes to my top 10. There is one other goal I had in 2024, and that has to do with wrap-ups. So I had this idea of getting away from the wrap-up format and instead talking about the last few books I read and just labeling it a video of those books and going in depth about each book, doing a more concise review format for those books. And I guess the difference is that for a wrap up, one, that's a monthly regular thing. Two, when you do a wrap up, I feel like wrap ups are often about whether you liked the book or not and just keeping it really, really simple. Whereas the videos that I was trying to do offered a little bit more than that. They offered a little bit more in-depth thoughts about books. And then I just ended up bringing back the wrap-up title, but I think I kept the same quality of content in which I did go in depth more about the books. And by the way, there is absolutely nothing wrong with doing a more general wrap-up format versus a more in-depth review wrap-up format, which is what I'm doing right now. I think both add value, and it just depends on the person, what they want to achieve on their channel, so on and so forth. But I guess I started to move more towards this in-depth, concise review style because I'm doing fewer individual reviews. And I feel like this might be a good way to find a balance. And I also want to make sure that on my channel that I'm highlighting the books first and foremost, that I'm giving a lot of in-depth attention to what I'm reading, but not going into too much detail for people who are just interested in a book and trying to decide if it's for them or not. So I'm trying to strike that balance of giving enough, but not too much, not too little. And so that's where I'm at, even though I call my videos quote unquote wrap ups. I also wanted to do one video per week in 2024. That's what I've done pretty much since I started BookTube, but I didn't do so well in that goal for 2024. I kind of got away from that consistency. Last year was a difficult year in some ways, though. In September, my husband and I lost our cat very suddenly. And then in December, we had to say goodbye to our dog. And so anyone who's lost a pet, you know how difficult that is. I was very grateful for all the support I received on BookTube from those of you who knew about that. In fact, my friend Derry from Derry's Read It Before sent me this beautiful little cat token to remember Bagheera by. So Bagheera and Abigail will stay in our hearts forever. So that was a tough year. Now for some goals for 2025, starting out with reading goals. I didn't make a standalones TBR video. Maybe I will after this video, but for now, I will say that I am planning on reading a list of standalones for 2025. And this is, again, a way to add variety to my life. I want to read some classics and some more sci-fi, some more literary fiction, just explore different genres in my standalones TBR. And then when it comes to series, I do want to make progress in this area, as I mentioned before, and I am involved in a number of buddy reads when it comes to series, so I'm sure that will help keep me accountable. Now, as far as channel goals, I do want to continue the Why Read series. Sometimes it's a little challenging to coordinate the Why Read series because one, I have to make sure that people are available at the right time. I do prefer that Saturday 2 p.m. EST time, but I also want to make sure that I invite the right two guests that have good chemistry with one another and that can spark a really interesting conversation. So there are a lot of factors that go into that, plus I'm shy. So there are some people I want to invite on Why Read that I'm just a little shy to ask. And then I also want to make sure that I add some more topical videos to my channel. This is something that I did in the past, and I haven't really dedicated as much time to doing more of those in 2024, but I do want to do more of those in 2025. What I mean by topical videos are videos like the one I did on why I avoid DNFing books or about book formats. I did one on gendered reading, of course. There were a number of ones I've done in the past, so I want to make sure I'm doing more of those going forward. One more channel goal for 2025, a top 10 series list. Oh, I do want to improve my thumbnails. I think I mentioned this the last time I did a reflections video, and I don't feel like I've gotten that much better at thumbnails. It's just been an ongoing struggle for me. I know I need help in this area. I'll try to continue working on it. If you have any tips, feel free to DM me. And as far as life stuff, I want to go ahead and say that I want to make sure that I am allotting enough time to sleep. Sleep is very important. I find that sleep affects my reading life tremendously. If I don't get enough sleep, I can't concentrate as well. I find I'm having to reread passages several times. So, sleep is going to be important for me. I started resistance training, building muscle this last year. So, I want to continue with that as well. And journaling, attending to various hobbies. And I have one other lifestyle thing I want to continue in 2025 that I started in 2024, but then got away from. And that is mindfulness Sundays specifically. That's what I started. That's what I call it anyway. And what I do for mindfulness Sundays is I have a focus screen where I am avoiding apps, I'm avoiding notifications, and I'm trying to spend time focusing on presence, on reading, on a simple, quiet lifestyle. Like I said, I haven't done so well on that idea the last few weeks, but it is something that I want to continue doing moving forward. I think that's about it. I'm sure there are probably some other things I could think of, but that's about it for this video. Please let me know in the comment section below your thoughts on anything I mentioned. Let me know if you have any goals for 2025. Is there a series you're trying to finish in 2025 or a number of series you're trying to finish? Are there any standalones you want to get to? Do you have any lifestyle habits you want to implement? Let me know and have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.